Welcome to 302 Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado. The original home, built in 1897, and its additions now provide inspiring spaces and studio rooms for workshops. Recent renovations blend historic preservation with energy conservation and less toxic building materials and techniques. With the use of solar thermal panels, radiant floor heating, hot water storage, passive solar design, and affordable super insulation strategies, the building gets over 50% of its heating load from solar radiation. In this video, we'll walk you through the building, detailing how we implemented various technologies and show you how we applied sacred architecture principles. You'll also see the finished product and can visualize whether this unique building would be a good fit for your group.
Hello, my name is Ben Lipman, also known as Varadaan. I'm here to share with you today about an interesting project that I and some friends have developed over many years, 19 years. It's the building at 302 Pearl Street, also known as Solstice. We're sitting here on the southeast corner of 3rd and Pearl, right at the junction or the end of the run of bus number 205, which is heading toward Gun Barrel. So we're all the way on the west end of Pearl Street. This project began, I think, in my heart around 1989. So rolling back a little bit, in high school I was always interested in the bigger picture and had my choice of top universities for astrophysics. And my course through college included study of geology, which is also about a bigger picture in terms of time frame for sure, architecture, physics, and eventually mechanical engineering, with an eye toward the human experience of technology and designing for that and developing creativity. So in 1989, I was designing analytical instruments when I realized that I was doing the wrong work, that what needed to be done was to deal with the cultural transformation of human society, to bring human society more into alignment with the life systems of planet Earth, and actually to bring human cultural activity more into alignment with humans. In Western culture, we've left the sense of community and human connection, and we've lost track of some really important fundamental things about what it is to be human and to take care of each other and also to take care of our world. At that time, the global warming conversation was just beginning, and at that time there was no way to do graduate study that was really directed in areas that I was particularly interested in, which would have been sustainability, sustainable design, human community, cultural transformation along those lines. So I sort of had a wake up at that time and became clear that where I needed to work was right in the heart of the United States, because the culture of the United States is the one that needs the most work, needs to change the most, if we're going to preserve the quality of our biological systems on planet Earth. Now is the time for human beings to start making changes and protect what we have. Our birthright is the beautiful biological diversity of this Earth. So I came to Boulder, hooked up with a group called Timeweave, ultimately, and bought this building at 302 Pearl Street from the Rolfe Institute, or organized the purchase on behalf of this nonprofit organization called Timeweave. Out of that grew the project that became known as Solstice Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit, which ultimately became, out of that grew this building as it is now, which is called Solstice Center. In this project, along the way, we've attempted to do remodeling. We started out on basically a zero budget. At some point I had an opportunity to bring some resources into the project to make it a superior building. When we first started, the upstairs of the old building, which was built in 1897, was completely uninsulated. You can see that there are some old components. There's a cross gable where the bathroom is. On the other side was a very small shed roof form. The round archway was added later by the Rolfe Institute, as was the round sign and some other elements inside that we'll take a look at. Before I get into more detail on the site, I want to introduce you to my friend, Peter McGill, who I've known for many, many years. And Peter has been, come on over, Peter, has been the project manager on this site. And from the very get-go, we've had, I would say, cool and profound conversations about the underpinning principles that can be incorporated into a project like this.
And it was a very enjoyable project, very challenging project, and structurally very challenging and interesting, but the challenge always brings out creativity. So not only did we employ conventional construction techniques, whatever, but we also employed energetic techniques that we'll be talking about later on in the video. So during a walkthrough of the building. So this was a turning point in my life where I was actually able to use some of the things that I had studied for a long time with sacred geometry and other things with nature. So this was a great process for me.
Okay, so we will now discuss a little bit about the site itself. We're looking down Pearl Street, and at some point down Pearl Street we would enter at 11th Street. Between 11th and 15th Street Pearl Street is closed to cars. It's a pedestrian mall. It's probably one of the City of Boulder's most successful sustainability / cultural transformation projects. In the country, it's one of the most successful pedestrian malls. Portland, Oregon tried to copy it, but didn't get some things right. As we look across the street, what we have is an affordable housing project. The affordable housing project came to be as a result of the fact that there was a uranium mill across the street. So we had to be aware of that because there used to be, I presume, clouds of uranium dust billowing across. There was gold mining up in the mountains and also tungsten mining. So there are some waste piles scattered around Boulder County, especially on this west end and especially at the mouth of the creek. We're at the mouth of the creek. And if you look across as we go further up, looking toward the mountains. So we were looking east. Pearl Street runs east to west or west to east. And as we look up toward the west, on the right side, there is a flat area that you can't really see, but it is there, called Settlers Park. And that's where the first white people stayed when they came, because where we are right now was probably a summering ground for the Native Americans. So they were here, and the settlers came and they were guests. And that's why that area is called Settlers Park. So this mouth of Boulder Canyon was a very important site for the Ute, the Navajo, and the Arapaho Indians. And the reason is that Colorado is very special. Half of the state is mountains, but half of the state is completely flat. And within Colorado, basically at Blanca Peak, is the end of the Rocky Mountains as they progress south. So they die in Colorado. And then we enter the realm of New Mexico, the desert biome. So we have a mix of desert biome, plains biome, and mountain biome, or mountain/forest biome. And so these different biomes, a biome is an area that has a unique constellation of soil types, plant types, animal species, and so forth. And what you have in Colorado is this really interesting mix where you will have Doug fir on the north side of a mountain, and then on the south side of the mountain you'll have forest, cactus, and yucca. So this mixture of plants and animals means that this was a very important gathering area for plants, especially plants, herbs, medicines, foods, and hunting animals for the Native American people. And they, of course, were very conscious of what they used. It's kind of famous, but community is an important value in Native American society. They really understood on some level this idea of caretaking the land and living together sustainably. I'm not going to propose that we should all go back to subsistence living on the land, but we will need to move toward a sustainable society, toward sustainable culture, if we are to thrive on this earth. And so this facility from the get-go has been considered to be a sanctuary for the emergence of this culture of sustainability, community, health, and transformation. So this building at 302 Pearl Street has been an opportunity to explore many different ideas in architecture. I would say that it's been a process, not only in the evolution of the building, but it has reflected a process for myself personally and a deepening of understanding and sophistication of, we could say, consciousness or comprehension. And what's also happened is that because this has been a community site, we started having dances twice a week in September of 1993. So we're looking at 19 years of community dance events and gatherings and so on. And to pay the bills, we've rented the building out to different groups who have used the facility for different purposes. And there's been an evolution of interest and use of the facility as well. And part of that may be related to our success in creating an interesting place for people to come and gather. So when we first started, we were at bottom of the barrel at the rental value, and now we're the gem. We're the place where everybody wants to come. So a few years ago, it had shifted to energy healers, and now it's a site that's well known as a place for community gatherings around meditation, spiritual practices, and yoga, and so on, like things like that. And that has also been part of my own journey more and more into spiritual science. And in time, having gone to India, I came back and studied Ayurveda and am now an Ayurvedic doctor and have my clinic upstairs. Before I left, when I was starting to study what sustainability means, I began to understand more and more that sustainability ultimately is about health, health of society, health of individuals, health of the planet. And Ayurveda offers this very comprehensive understanding of what is health, health being the functional integrity, life, healthy life being the functional integrity of mind, body, and spirit, and health being the normal functioning of waste processes, the balance of the tissues, the balance of the doshas, and so forth. But what I want to share with you in particular right now are some core principles that have guided the architectural journey, if you will, of the site. So one is really to not compromise when it comes to creating beauty. And so this garden, which is in its fall season, even now it's quite attractive. There's a lot of color on the ground. Of course, there's no flowers, but there's some dried flowers, and there's a diversity of color. It still feels vital and alive, even though we've turned off the water. But when we talk about the actual building itself, from the get-go, one of the ideas was, can we take an old building, the old part of the building built in 1897, the newer addition actually dating back to the 50s and just being a raw cement block shell, can we take a structure like that and model how to create a high-performance, super insulating building envelope and retain all of the embodied energy of the existing structure while we create this high performance building envelope. And I think we've succeeded in doing that at relatively low cost. Can we do that in a way that models how to create minimum impact on the environment and use minimum toxicity in the construction, incorporating as few toxic components as possible, releasing as few toxic components into the environment as possible. Also incorporating other sustainable technology ideas such as permaculture. So the garden beds here were converted from basically hard pack clay soils covered with black plastic and gravel. We used a permaculture technique called sheet mulching, where you put cardboard, 2 layers of cardboard, 6 inches of manure, and 12 inches of straw, and you leave it for a year. And then you collect night crawlers if you happen to be lucky, although they will come. They'll bore down 9 feet. They will turn the beds for you. You don't have to work. So one of the, I think, most important ideas as we look toward converting our existing infrastructures, can we do it cost effectively without doing a lot of work and make it better, more pleasant to inhabit than it was before, so that human beings have an incentive to go down this path, that there are a lot of wins that come out of this. The, of course, other consideration is, can we reduce the CO2 impact of the building envelope? So obviously, if we're doing good things with embodied energy, we're using concrete that was already here, that's doing a lot of CO2, essentially encapsulation or remediation from the beginning in the construction project. But what we've done is we've incorporated a lot of solar elements, passive and active solar elements, so that this old building actually gets 50% of its net heating load directly from the sun. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. And then there is a theme here that actually is a profound challenge in a site like this, which is to find the marriage between historic building preservation and sustainable design. And we've definitely threaded the needle there. It was part of our conversation with the city. I think we've done a pretty good job of retaining a lot of critical, or I would say important historic features. This is the corner of the historic West Pearl Historic District, and at the same time create a model, high performance example of sustainable architecture. And the last theme is not just a LEEDs rating, not just a good number in terms of eco spec. We're actually looking at the next edge, because what we need to do if we're going to bring about the transformation in human society, it isn't just about recycling our cans, and ultimately it isn't even really about dealing with CO2 sequestration issues. We have to evolve as a human society so we're more compassionate, loving, committed to our personal transformation. Only if we incorporate those deeper values, those guiding principles in a coherent way with integrity, will we really transform society. So what we're looking at is this idea of postmodernism, where Vastu Shastra is incorporated, sacred spaces are created, a sense of sanctuary is part of the design process. We're creating a place where people come out of modern society. In Ayurveda, we talk about vata pushing pitta, or the wind blowing on the fire, or the common term would be stress. Stress is the #1 killer. It's the #1 health concern worldwide. If we're successful, when people enter a building, they feel safe. They feel like they're suddenly able to grow their wings a little bit and relax. So the building envelope itself can be a fulcrum for human evolution and healing.